Camera out on this thing. So I got the new slack adjusters on. I got the S-cam tubes back on. S-cams I cleaned them up. Got all the new seals and everything in. Got the S-cams back in. And now what I've done is I've just cranked the bus and let it air up so that the emergency brakes could be released. And you can just barely see down in there that the brake canister has released, which means now I can put the slack adjuster back there in that in the clevis, and have a little bit better chance of being somewhere close to where I need to be here. I still got the hubs off, and I'm not sure. Well, these S-cams are not keyed, so ideally you want to kind of have your brakes together and roughly everything where it needs to be when you put the when you put the slack adjuster on. Otherwise it'll be, you know, way over there somewhere and then you'll be over here on the adjuster adjusting it like crazy to get it back in place, which is probably okay, but I'm just trying to get it somewhat close and make sure everything's going to be lined up. So that's what I'm doing now. So I ordered my new slack adjusters with these clevis kits installed. The reason I did that is so that I could get these pins. On the other side, the little pin here was missing because they put a Haldex slack adjuster on it and they didn't need it. And I don't know where it is. So I was like, oh, I'll just order them with clevis kits and then I'll have the pins. Sounds great. Except these are what they call, I believe, the lightweight clevis. So it's thin, and that means that this pin is made to go across that distance. Well, what's actually on the bus are those style clevises, and if you see that round spot where it's thicker, it makes it need a longer pin. And actually the pin that was in it, I put back in it, and it doesn't hardly even make it out the other side, much less get out far enough to where you can put a cotter pin through this hole right here. So I think what I'm going to do is, since these brake chambers are not easy to remove because of where the bolts are, they're down in that hole. I mean, you could do it, but I just really am trying to avoid having to take these brake chambers off because they're not leaking and they're not causing me any problems yet. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these clevis kits and put them on the front, because on the front first of all, that brake chamber is a lot easier to get to. I should be able to get the clevis off without maybe even taking the brake chamber off. And these are also the thick clevises, which means they have the right pins. So I can steal a pin from here, use it on the back, and then change the clevis out in the front. Then I'll be able to use the short pins up here so that I don't have to go order anything else, because I'm tired of ordering brake parts. So that's the plan, man. Okay, this side's done, ready to go, ready to put the wheel back on. So I'm going to go to the other side and I'll show you guys what all I did. I tried to video some of it, but I just got busy and didn't video. So I have another side here and I'll try to document this side a little bit better. So what we need to do, that brake shoe there is just sitting there for right now. I'd put that there for getting things lined up. So what we got to do is we got to get that axle back in. We need to get this hub on right here, and it's got old gasket and silicone all over it. It's going to take a little while to get that off. And then I tried to keep this covered up with a bag and keep dirt out of it so I wouldn't have to do too much cleaning, but I'll probably spray that with some brake cleaner, wipe it out real good, and then re-oil it before I put it back together. So that slides on to the axle tube here, which I've got covered up at the moment. The wheel seals on here look pretty much brand new. They feel good, they look good, so I'm not going to replace them. I'm just going to put the hub back on as is. So hub goes back on. Got to tighten this all up, torque it, then set the torque, and then back it off a little bit to get the bearings at the right pressure. And then once the hub is on, I can go ahead and put the axle back in. And the way these things work is the axle goes in, and that actually, the end of the axle right there, seals to the edge of this hub, and that's actually how the wheel gets driven. It's actually pretty cool because it enables you to easily replace bearings and all that stuff without having to have like bearings that you drive in and stuff like that, like I did with the van. I'll be putting up another video of that, but it's pretty cool. It's designed for quick change. But anyway, so let me get started here and I'll kind of walk you through what I'm doing. All right, step one, got to get all this old gasket material off of this hub and off of the axle. The axle is going to be easy because I'm just going to take a wire brush on a drill and go to town because that's steel. This is aluminum. Not a good idea to go to town on it with anything. Okay, so first I got to get this box out of the way. And I'm going to get this axle tube cleaned up a little bit. Some brake cleaner. So right here is where the axle seal, I guess they call it really a dust cover. It's not, this is not the actual sealing surface, the rotating sealing surface, but it is a sealing surface. So I'm trying to get it clean and without disturbing too much of this 40 years of brake dust right here. It's not much point in getting all that off. And then the bearing rods here, and another one rides right here. And this stuff in the middle is not as important. The threads probably don't need to be too dirty. And there, nice and clean. And what I'll do is when I put that hub back on, I'll grease the seal so it slides on there. All right, so now to the hub. I decided not to clean this off just yet because all it's going to do is fall down in there in the bearing, and I don't want to do that. So I'm going to do it like I did the other side. I'm going to put everything together, put the bearings in, and then I'll shove a bunch of paper towels in there so it stays clean in there, and then I'll scrape all that out off. So this one, when I took it off, I pretty much immediately covered it and put it up to try to keep it nice and clean, and it looks like that's paid off. Let me get a clean rag, just wipe this a little bit. I think whenever they did all this work on the brakes where the S-cams got backwards, I think they did a whole bunch of other maintenance, because it looks like it's got new bearings, new rear end fluid. But of course, this was probably in 2009, so it looks good, but it is all old. So I'll probably drain the fluid and redo that. Flip this bad boy over. There's the bearing. The bearings feel nice and smooth. Man, if you didn't have to worry about cleaning up gasket surfaces and making sure that all this stuff stays super clean while you're working, this would be a pretty fast job. But because of that, trying to be careful. I try to do things clean if I can. So this little rubber seal right here is what seals on the axle where I showed you earlier. And then this whole thing rides on, this is a metal ring, and that whole thing presses on there. And this actually moves, if you see, and the actual rotating seal is in there. It's kind of cool because it keeps you from having to worry about that seal lip getting cut or smashed when you put this heavy hub on. The bearing centers everything, and then by the time you get to that ring on the axle tube, everything's centered up, and this just goes right on. So it's a pretty good design. So I'm just cleaning this up. I'm gonna put a little grease on that, and let's look down in here. I'm gonna hit that with some brake cleaner, just to be safe. All right. All it takes is one piece of grit. Be rolling around in that bearing. No bueno. So get my finger nice and clean, and then I'm gonna put a little grease on this seal so it'll go on easy. All right. And what the heck, I'll put a little here too, just for good luck. All this is going to be kind of submerged in gear oil, but just so that there's something on this when it goes on. All right. All right, here goes nothing. So that sealing surface back there is pretty tight. Kind of have to work it on there. I'm gonna get this brake shoe off here so I can see what I'm doing. All right, that's on-ish. Now my hands are dirty and I need to handle these bearings. So I gotta clean my hands again. You see where I'm going with this? It just takes forever. Pro tip, put your bearings in a Tupperware container. Keep them clean and airtight. Okay. Before I put this bearing on, I'm gonna give it a little drink of gear oil. Make sure it all looks nice and clean. This thing looks good. Like I said, I think they replaced these. So I'm gonna rock that back a little bit. Oh, tried to spit that bearing back out at me. Did you see that? Okay, this nut has the little tab on it for the locking ring, so it goes on first. Come on. All right, I want to show you something real quick. So this is the axle tube. This is the nut that actually pushes on the bearing to tighten it up. There's a tab right here. And the way this lock-in system works is you have a ring, and this ring is keyed. It's got a key right here. And this axle tube has a slot in it right here. And so the idea is that once you get this thing to the tightness that you want, you put this ring on, and that little tab is supposed to stick out and go in one of these holes. At the moment, you can see it doesn't line up. It's hard to see in the camera, but so you get it as close as you can, and then you'll either have to tighten it or loosen it to get it to line up with a hole. And then once you do that, you can put this locking nut on there, and you torque that. So the way that Meritor says to do this is you tighten this nut to 200 foot-pounds. You rotate it 5 times, tighten it again, rotate it the other way, tighten it again, basically to seat the bearings. And once you do that, then you back it back off. And then you tighten it to 50 foot-pounds, and then you rotate, and then you counter-rotate, and you tighten it again and again. And then once you do that, you're supposed to back it off a quarter turn. Now, I did that earlier, and it loosened the bearing up way too much. I saw another procedure online on YouTube where a guy said you tighten it to the second time to 100 foot-pounds, and then you back it off 1/8 of a turn. So I did that on the other side, and that worked out a lot better. It felt better, and I just liked it. I don't want it to be too, I don't want it to be too tight, but I don't want it to be too loose either. And these are huge bearings and big parts. And I just really, I mean, hand tight, they say, oh, just always hand tighten bearings, and then, you know, and I don't think that applies on a bus, but that's just me. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna tighten it 200, seat everything, back it back off, go 100, back off an eighth of a turn, maybe a little more, and just feel it. And then depending on how it feels, I'll either loosen it to line it up with the tab or tighten it to line it up with the tab, depending on what kind of mood I'm in. But yeah, I mean, there's various different documentation out there. You can take your pick. They're all going to have a little bit different procedure. I'm just going off of my experience as a mechanic for a long time in a past life, and try to find that sweet spot. So that's what I'm going to do. All right, let's see if we can get this thing torqued, shall we? First, I'm gonna move all of my don't get it dirty stuff over here. And then locate my 4-inch ridiculously huge socket. 3/4 inch ratchet. And I'm gonna start by just snugging this thing up a little bit. First, I'll take yet another clean rag. I'm gonna go through a whole tub of rags today, I think. Some of the dirt off. And then we're just gonna snug this thing up a little bit. Okay, now gotta turn this thing back up to 200. That's about all she's got. There we go. Let's see if I can do this without dropping this socket in the dirt for the 10th time today. Okay. Terrible angle. Let's get this way. It's a little awkward. Right, that's 200. I know this socket's gonna fall off again before I get done. So now, rotate it that way a little bit. See, it did tighten up just a tad when I did that, so that's why they make you do that. All right, there. Now that's set, they call it. So now, we'll reverse this thing. Back it back off without breaking my back, maybe. Okay, back off. We'll back the torque wrench back off. It's getting dark. This video probably won't even come out. Okay. There's 100. So we're going to carefully go about 1/8 of a turn. So let's see what we got. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So each bolt is 1/8. And right now we're lined up with this one, so we'll go to this one. All right. That feels pretty good. Now, the question is, will we get lucky and have our holes in our lock not just line up? That would be nice. By the way, this thing has a flat side and a slightly rounded side. Flat side goes down. It's like that on every washer, everywhere. Of course, it's right between 2 holes. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna tighten it up just a tad, try to get it lined up. See if that's enough. Come on, big money, big money. Oh yeah. Love it when a plan comes together. All right. So now the tab is lined up with the hole. And so, let me back off of this. I can see the molecules in there. Now, this is going real good. It's hard to do stuff holding the camera. I ain't good at that yet. I bet there's people on YouTube that can do anything with holding the camera. Probably like knit a freaking pair of socks while they're holding a camera. Okay, so that's in, it's locked. Got to torque this bad boy here to between 300 and 400 is what it says on the Meritor book. So to me, that's 350. So I'm gonna get the Big Bertha torque wrench and get this thing torqued. There we go. This is crazy. Big tools for big vehicles. All right, so I've got the axle tube in there protected with some paper towels. Now I can start scraping all this crap off here. This is aluminum, so I'm trying to use one of these plastic like razor blade things, but I don't know if it's gonna work out or not. What they did is, last time this was disassembled, they didn't take the old gasket off. They just ripped it apart, put silicone all over it, and put it back together. So now you've got old gasket, silicone, all kinds of fun stuff. Let me go put some safety glasses on. Lovely. Alrighty then. Let's see if we can get these brake shoes on. Got big spring that goes the side of the brake shoe that has the S-cam. Now what I found that works is you put that blue spring on and just kind of let things dangle like this and see if you can work it around like this. And the trick is to try to get these up, these rollers up in the S-cam, and you have to kind of finagle them into place and stretch out that spring a little bit. See if we get the top one in. All right, top one's in. You have to kind of stretch the spring a little bit. And now the bottom one's in. So that's what you want there, is those rollers in the S-cam. All right, so now that we got the other side in, it's sitting on the S-cam on the other side. And so what we can do now is make sure these pistons are in, so the bottom one's already in. And then you can kind of lift up, get this lined up, stretch it. There you go. Now they're both on. So now, all that's left to do is put the small springs in. So the way we do that, put one end in. And we have a special tool. This guy. I'll put the part number in the description if I can remember. If I don't, just yell at me in the comments and I'll put it in there. So this little hook right here goes through the spring. Like that. Move my hand like that right there. And then you just pry on the bottom of the hub or whatever you can find. And then get it hooked in there. And just barely, it's just barely in there. Just take and bump it on in. Easier said than done. Try not to hit the camera. There we go. And the back one, same drill, just a little trickier because it's the availability of things to pry on, or good things to pry on back here. It's not quite as great, but we should be able to do it anyway. There, it's in there. I know you can't see it, but I'm just trying to find a way to pry it in there, knock it in there, whatever, like I did before. There it goes. All right. And that's both brake shoes on. So there we go. Brake shoes are on, axles in, hubs on. Everything's secure. A lot harder to turn now because I'm spinning the whole differential. But let's get that drum back on and we'll be good to go. These drums are not light, that is for sure. lug nuts at? There they go. All right. And that's it. Minus the wheels, it's back together. So what I'll do tomorrow, or whenever I get a chance, so I'll probably screw a couple lug nuts on, tighten up this drum, and then I will actually set my brake adjustment just so I can be in here and see things and spin it and make sure everything's doing like it's supposed to. But it should be it.